another night, another film, not another car park. I'm in the same car park, of course I am, although not in the same space. Good evening. I have just been to see The Colour Purple. Well, that's not strictly true. I came out of the film about half an hour ago. My eyes are up, it's night time. And as I came out of the cinema, I ran into three gentlemen who I love with my whole heart. Three of my friends who I met working in this very cinema 20 years ago. So I've just come out of the cinema screen and I clocked one of them and thought, that looks a lot like Jordan. And it was indeed Jordan and Lawrence and Gary. So half an hour chatting to them has made me far happier than the film did, because I didn't like the film. Right, so here's the thing. I studied The Colour Purple for my A-levels. So it means a lot to me. And fair enough, my A-levels were 23 and a bit years ago. But I remember The Colour Purple quite well. It's an incredible novel, and it's heartbreaking and sad and tragic and uplifting and all of those things. And there was a film version made in 1985, so I'm guessing at school we might have watched the film version. In fact, I think we probably did. I didn't like the film version because I didn't think it did a very good job of adapting the book, even though it was made by Spielberg and it starred Whoopi Goldberg and Danny Glover, and it should have been great, but it just wasn't. And it was a constant bone of contention between me and my dad, because my dad had never read the book but had seen the film and thought the film was marvellous and moving and excellent. And he loved to tell me that it was nominated for 8 Oscars, 8 or 9, I forget which, but a lot. It was nominated for 9 Oscars and it won none. And I used to retaliate with, because it wasn't very good, and then he'd get cross with me for not liking it, which is daft, all of it really. So I was interested when there was another film version made, and I did know that this new film version was a musical, that it is based on the Broadway show. So we're flashing back a couple of weeks to when I watched Mean Girls last week before. And it's the same thing that happened with Hairspray, which is what I said in my Mean Girls review. You take a story, maybe it's been filmed before, then it goes to Broadway as a musical, then the Broadway musical gets made into a film. So I went into this with some trepidation, but trying to have an open mind. And I thought, okay, you love the book and that's fine. And you didn't like the original film, and that's okay as well. But here's a new version, and it's based on a very successful Broadway musical. And you like musicals, Katie, and you should like this. And I just didn't. The positives, right? The cast are superb. The lead is Fantasia Barrino, who won the 3rd series of American Idol. Astoundingly, in that same series of American Idol was future EGOT holder Jennifer Hudson, who came 7th. I mean, I'm sure she's fine about it now. She can dry her eyes on her Emmy, what is it? Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony. And actually, yeah, I was aware of, although I didn't watch that series of American Idol, I was aware of Fantasia Barrino, and I know she's very successful and she's got a great voice. So she plays Celie as an adult. You do get to see Celie and her sister Nettie as children. Taraji P. Henson plays Shug Avery, who is the object of Celie's affections. You've also got Corey Hawkins, who I first saw in The Heights, but also saw in Straight Outta Compton, where he played Dr. Dre, a young version of Dr. Dre. So yeah, the cast are good, it looks good. Here's my beef with it, right? My beef is twofold. One, I don't think the songs are particularly memorable, and I know that's the first time I've heard them all, but none of them got me in the feels. And like, I saw Wonka and I couldn't wait to listen to all the songs again, and I saw Mean Girls musical version and I've listened to the soundtrack twice. This, I have no desire to go and listen to the songs, and I'm sure they are good because Broadway standard and all that sort of stuff, but they didn't hit me in the feels the way musical songs should, even on first hearing. Secondly, I just feel like it is too tragic and too brutal a story to have the jazz hands treatment. I'm pointing because I'm quite cross. This is the story of two sisters, Celie and Nettie. We are deep, deep south in America, and I think the story starts around the late, I think it's maybe the early 1920s. So this is deep south, impoverished, you know, not a fun place to live. And they are very close, these two sisters. Celie is the slightly older one. She's described quite in the book as being the ugly sister. And then you've got Nettie, who's the younger one, who's prettier and also brighter. So she's the one who's going to go on to school and be a school teacher and so on and so forth. Whereas Celie, as far as their father is concerned, is good for nothing other than housework. And when we see Celie at the beginning of the film, she is already pregnant. The baby is her dad's. This is what we're dealing with. Her father is raping his child. This is the second baby she's had, both of which are then given away, so she doesn't get to see them. They just get taken off her. Nice cameo from Whoopi Goldberg, who played Celie in the 1985 Spielberg film, who appears as the midwife to deliver the baby, the second of the two babies that Celie has had. So straight away, that's where we are. We are in a place, in a time, in America, where men are raping their own daughters and getting them pregnant. And that's happening. And then the babies are given away. And this is a time when girls and women are knocked about by their fathers and their husbands. A local man known as Mr. takes an interest in Nettie, who's the younger daughter, goes to see the dad and asks for Nettie's hand in marriage. Alfonso, who is Celie and Nettie's dad, says no, but you can have Celie. So she is basically sold into marriage to this awful man to look after his children that he's got by another woman, and that's her life. And he knocks her about, and her life is absolutely bleak. A sister comes to stay because as soon as Celie has gone from the house, the father turns his attentions to his other daughter, and because Nettie doesn't want that attention from her dad, she runs to her sister. She's allowed to move in with Mr. and Celie and the children briefly, and then of course Mr. makes moves on Nettie, at which point she fights him off and he throws her out. So the sisters are separated. This is all like the sort of preamble when the girls are teenagers, and then we cut to them as an adult, and a big chunk of the book is the sisters being separated and Nettie actually being in Africa because she went out there to work. Well, she went out there with a preacher to be a missionary. So they're living these two completely separate lives. Another huge part of the book is Celie's love of a woman called Shug Avery, who is a jazz singer. Formerly, Mr. has been involved with Shug Avery and he should have married her, but she's too much of a free spirit. She comes to stay. So essentially, the mistress comes to stay with Celie and Mr. And Celie falls in love with her. And they have something of a love affair. And it's hinted at in this film. It's certainly hinted at more than it is in the Spielberg film. But there's this huge theme in the original book of this queer love story between these two women. And Sugar's too much of a free spirit to settle down with one man or woman. She is a creature of love and fire and passion, and she's outspoken and she's everything Celie's not. But she falls in love with something in Celie, and they have an affair, a love affair in the book. And again, there's a kiss in this film, and there's a suggestion that they spent the night together. And it's not like I wanted graphic lesbian sex to go with me all singing, all dancing jazz hands, but I just feel that the queer love story should have played a bigger part. So yeah, just not for me. I really wanted to like it. I tried to go in with an open mind, but I just don't think that this incredible historical, like, epic novel of Alice Walker's, I think if it's ever to be adapted again, it needs like an Apple TV series or a Netflix series, and it should be like 10 parts, because it's such a big, sad, brutal, ultimately uplifting story. But you can't tell it in a couple of hours in a Spielberg film, and you can't even tell it in a 2-hour and 20-minute Broadway musical film. It just doesn't work for me. So there you go. It's film cinema visit number 10 of the year. I don't think it's my 10th original film of the year, because at least one of the visits this month was a repeat viewing of Wonka. So, but yeah, that's that then, innit? Didn't love it, but I've seen it. Onwards to the next one. Who knows what it'll be? I mean, I might know probably The Holdovers next week, which will be very different from The Colour Purple and possibly involve less jazz hands. This car is cold and I need to go home. Okay, thanks for listening. Bye.